I take a glass of water in my hand and just look at it in a certain way and give it to you, well-being will come to you. If I look at it another way and give it to you, you'll fall sick tonight. This is no more superstition, this is science. So is there any scientific evidence? There's substantial scientific evidence today about how the molecular structure of the water can be rearranged without changing the chemical structure, even with a simple thought or a touch.
You said that water has some memory.
Yes.
Is there any viability to bring that memory level to our life or something? Is there any scientific evidence or spiritual evidence or some other evidences available for that? Basically, as I'm a chemist, I am telling this.
Okay. Today, is it okay if I walk down into you? Today, particularly in the last 4.5 years, phenomenal amount of research has gone into water and its water potential. This started off inadvertently because of the way the usable water in the world is receding per person. In India, for example, in 1947, doesn't like me. In 1947, how much water an average Indian had, potable water? Today, we have only 20% of that. They say by 2025, we'll have only 7% of what we had in 1947 per person. Per capita water, only that much will be available. So because of this, lot of research has gone into water. It went mostly from this line, but slowly they went deeper and deeper into this and they find, which you must be, being a chemist, you must be very much aware of this, without changing the chemical composition of the water, you can rearrange the molecular arrangement in such a way that the water will behave completely in a different way than the way it does. To such an extent, it's sensitive to this extent that if I take a glass of water in my hand and just look at it in a certain way and give it to you, well-being will come to you. If I look at it another way and give it to you, you'll fall sick tonight. This is no more superstition, this is science. So is there any scientific evidence? There's substantial scientific evidence today about how the molecular structure of the water can be rearranged without changing the chemical structure, even with a simple thought or a touch.
To what extent is water capable of picking up information? What does it perceive? And how does it remember it over time?
The Aerospace Institute in Stuttgart has discovered a relatively simple way of making the structure of a drop of water visible. The researchers have had their efforts rewarded by insights into a very beautiful world. Each drop has a face of its own, unmistakable and unique. Why are the individual drops so different from one another? We got a lot of people to come to a lecture hall here at the Institute, gave them all the same water, had them make drops at exactly the same time, collected all the drops and then discovered that each individual produced different images from the same water. And here you can see the results. Here on the right you can see that the images of the individual students are different, but those made by a given student are all quite similar. This is the work of the first experimenter, this one here from the second, this from the third, and this from the fourth. Individually they can quite easily be reproduced, but you would never have thought that they were all from the same water, because when you compare the images from the different people, you see some big differences. Then we undertook experiments to find out whether things changed when we put something into the water. A real flower was placed in the water. A while later we took a drop of water, and here you can see one of the pictures. And you can see it in this picture. It's the typical image you get when you put a flower into water. You could recognize the flower in every single drop in this glass, of course. That can be reproduced and has significance. And if you were to put a different flower in here, for example, a Sweet William flower, then all the drops of this water would look like Sweet William. The statement that water has a memory practically changes our whole way of looking at the world, of course. Let's travel down the Rhine in the figurative sense. The water is flowing down the Rhine, picking up information everywhere it goes. So the water has more information at the mouth of the Rhine than it had at the source. And the Dutch, living at the mouth, when they drink that water, they're also drinking all that information. Thus, the world's oceans would no longer be something that separates us, but instead a giant storehouse of information, and the rain would perhaps be a data medium carrying information to the world.
The year is 1956. The place is a secret military laboratory for developing and producing weapons of mass destruction. Work has been underway here for several years on a powerful new generation of bacteriological weapon. The scientists are discussing what properties this weapon should have at one of their protracted secret meetings. Suddenly, the session breaks off. All of the participants are taken to the hospital with symptoms of severe food poisoning. An investigation into what happened quickly hits a dead end. The scientists had consumed nothing except water from the carafes on their table. The water was tested. No harmful additives were found. Its chemical composition was H2O, and that's what the report said: poisoning caused by ordinary water. "20 years later, a fantastic hypothesis was put forward. A hypothesis that could explain water's unpredictable behavior. Water has memory. Dr. Emoto conducted another groundbreaking experiment. He placed rice into 3 glass beakers and covered it with water. And then every day for a month he said thank you to one beaker. You're an idiot to the second. And the third one he completely ignored. After 1 month, the rice that had been thanked began to ferment, giving off a strong, pleasant aroma. The rice in the second beaker turned black. And the rice that was ignored began to rot.
Didn't your grandmothers tell you, you should not drink water from anybody's hand, do not take food from anybody, there is a certain way, you must receive only if they have good intentions for you? Did they tell you these things? But when your grandmother said it, the problem is if it goes from the east, it is superstition. If it comes from the west, it becomes science. That's where it is. That has to change. Your generation of people, that's your responsibility to change that. That even if it goes from the east, if it is science, it's science.